Okay, so now I'm going to set up some materials in my scene. I'm going to select up just two materials, one white chalk type material and the other one will be a glass material. So to find my materials I can hit M on the keyboard to shortcut, or I can come to the top row of buttons along the top here, right along to the right, and click on this circular button here next to the three teapots, which are our render windows. Okay, so I'm going to click on this and I'll get the slate material editor. Now what we want is the simpler compact material editor, so I'm going to come to modes in the top left and come down and pick compact material editor. And we should see a simple editor like this with some spheres on the screen. I'm going to right click on one of those spheres. I'm going to come down and select 3x2 sample windows so I can see a little bit more clearly what it is I'm doing here in the material panel. If I double click on one of these materials, it'll bring it out large for me so I can see even more clearly what's happening here on the screen. So the first material I'm going to make is the ambient occlusion material, or the chalk material. So I'm going to give it a name, chalk, so I can easily find it later on at some stage. And I'm going to just check that I'm using a mental ray arc and design material. Now if it doesn't say arc and design material here or under the little button here, I can click on this button and it'll bring me out to a material map browser, and I can come down to mental ray and double click on arc and design, and it'll bring a base arc and design material here for me. I can also get to that same place by coming down below the text here along this little row of buttons here, and the first one on the left here, get material. If I select that, brings up the material map browser again. Again I can click on the arc and design, double click, brings up this base architecture and design material for mental ray. Okay, the first thing I want to do is turn on the background, so that's just here on the right hand row of buttons, third button down, background. And I can see with this grid at the back here, this checkerboard grid, what I've got is it reflecting on the material. Now I don't want any reflections on this material, I want it to be a matte finish. So I'm going to change here under my templates, above where it says arc plus design, mental ray, I'm going to select the template and I'm going to select the matte finish. And I can see now that those reflections have gone. What I'm going to do too is underneath main material parameters I have the diffuse properties. Now the diffuse properties are essentially the color of that material. Okay, so I'm going to click on color and I'm just going to make it a little bit lighter here, down to maybe 0.8 or so, and click OK. And you can see that the material colors become a little bit more white. Now I'm going to click in the second material window here on the second sphere. It's an arc and design mental ray material already, which is good, and again I'm going to click on the select template and I'm going to come down, scroll down a little bit, and I'm going to pick one of these transparent materials and I'm going to use the glass thin geometry. Now you can play around with these other glass materials and see what sort of effects you might get, but for this exercise we're going to use the thin geometry glass. And you can see here, if I double click and pull the material out, we've got our glass material. Okay, we need to apply these materials to our scene. So we have our first chalk material, I'm going to rename that chalk, and I'm going to name my second material glass. Keeps things nice and tidy. And if I look to my scene, I'm going to Control A to select everything in my scene, and I'm going to apply this first chalk material using this Assign Material to Selection button. That's the button, third one along from the left here, with the sphere and the green square. You'll notice when I've got nothing selected, that button's grayed out. I can't do anything with it. When I have things selected, I can now assign that material. So it will assign whatever material I have selected with the white border here to that object selected in my viewport. And as I assign that material, you'll notice these little triangles pop up in the window where the material is selected in the viewport. If I look at my viewport now, I can see that every material has got, every element has got this white material on it. If I click on my little render production button here up in the top right hand corner, I'm going to see everything in my scene covered in that white material. Now what we want to do is we want to apply the glass material to all of the glass in the scene. Now rather than trying to select all the glass individually in our scene, in our viewport here, what we're going to do is we're going to come to our top row of buttons here, and we're going to use select by name. I'm going to click on that, and here we can select the materials in our scene by name. If I pull this out a little bit, you'll see some things in our curtain panels are called glazed. If I scroll down, we might see some other names for things with glass, with glaze and things like that. So what we want to do is be able to select everything in our scene with this text in it. So to do that, we're going to click here in the little text box, and we're going to type Shift 8, so we get a little asterisk, and you'll notice everything is being highlighted. Now as we start typing GLA, what we notice if we scroll down here is that only the things with GLA have been selected. And you can see here some things are glazed, some things are glass, and some things are glass. So this is selecting all of the glass type materials in our scene, and I'm going to click OK. If I come back to my viewport and right click, I'm going to isolate the selection here from our quad menu, and I can see that I've just got all the glass elements selected. I'm going to make sure glass is selected in my material editor here, and I'm going to apply it to the scene. I'm going to right click again. In my quad menu I'm going to end isolate. Now if I hit render production button, I can see I have the two materials set. I have the white material and I have the glass material set to all the glass here.